We are back on the Tate's Take. How are we doing today, everybody? Week 2 of college football, and I'm ready to get into it. I'm recording this Thursday, September 4th. We got NFL games tonight, but that's not what we talk about here. We talk about the sport where, it is pure passion every single week. We saw that last weekend with just some unbelievable football games, some gutting losses for some big schools to start the year, and overall, it was great to have football back. I mean, what a better weekend to spend, for Labor Day weekend. It wasn't in Michigan. It was not a weekend you could be at the lake. If you were, I mean, you could be at the lake, but you probably weren't on the boat out on the water. It was 60s. It felt like a early October weekend, but it was September, and I was at the Michigan State game Friday night, and it was chilly. I love it. It was perfect football weather, but definitely not the way the weather normally is when you go to a Michigan State football game for the first one in August, and it's usually humid, hot, everything. So, as always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're up to 16 subscribers, and also I hope everybody enjoyed the element on Instagram this weekend. Tate's underscore take on Instagram. I put out a couple reels. They're just 2-minute videos of recapping some of the bigger games this weekend. Got a lot of feedback about those. Most of those got a couple hundred views, and we got some new followers on the YouTube channel or on the Instagram page that hopefully will then come to the YouTube channel. So hopefully everybody's doing good today. I mean, amazing week 1. We had big upsets. Alabama's the biggest upset, I would say. Buckeyes, massive win. We already talked about that on the reel. LSU pulling off a big upset at Clemson. I say it's a big upset as a 4.5-point spread. Clemson's kind of a lot of people's team to win it all this year, and they Clemsoned it the last couple of years, I would say, by their performance on Saturday. They didn't take care of business. LSU came in. LSU, keep an eye out for them. I think that's a team that vaulted themselves into my top 5 the rest of the year. And unfortunately, I didn't pick them for the playoffs, so kind of bummed about that. I did pick Alabama. I did give out Florida State's over on win totals this year, so 7.5. You win a game against Alabama to start the year that no one thought you were going to win, except the GOAT Lee Corso. Then all I can say is, hey, if you took that bet, you're off to a really good start. So I'm glad to be tuning in with all of you today. And this week, there's not as many elite top 10 matchups. There's no top 10 matchups, but we have really good games this week I want to talk about. But my biggest takeaways from last week is Ohio State lost a lot of guys on defense, but their defense has potential to be even better than last year's team because I think their secondary is even better. LSU, they have a for real defense. They do. They invested a lot in that. They've put the staff to get the players in the position to look as good as they have, and they look outstanding. Some quarterbacks that were thought of very highly that I was not impressed with. Cade Klubnik. I've heard his name a lot throughout the recruiting cycle and all the way into Clemson. He's been there a couple of years, and I don't see it as the top tier quarterback Clemson should have. Arch, I could be a little biased here, but I think people need to park the brakes with Arch. I think Arch is going to be fine. You got to give him some time. He went against an amazing defense on the road, first game, and his skill players didn't make plays. I think you add all that up, they're not going to win that game. And yes, the quarterback takes the majority of the blame. Kalen DeBoer, he is going to have to make a playoff this year, or I think he gets fired. Bold take coming out of the gates week 1, but Bama has such high expectations for what their football program is, and that's, I think, unfair because they had Nick Saban, so all those fans expect that to happen. That there's always going to be a growing period, especially when you lose Nick Saban. But I do think if Kalen DeBoer struggles to make it to a playoff this year, I don't know. I think he will be a very hot seat. He's got a huge buyout, but at the same time, they don't care. They'll pay it. I mean, look at Texas A&M pay Jimbo Fisher's buyout, and they've not made a playoff since, and they've been good, but I mean, they're not, I would say, a national championship contender in these first couple of years. Miami, Carson Beck, that offense, I like them a lot. I like Notre Dame's quarterback, CJ Carr. I was impressed by him, especially for a redshirt freshman on the road. the big takeaway from that game, Jeremiah Love, you got to get him involved a little more. And then North Carolina, hey, that was not a good looking performance, but I think we need to give more respect to TCU. So those are kind of my, big things I would say if you look at week one that I would take away. If you tailed any of these sports bets, those were on Instagram and Twitter. And we went 2-2 on the spread pick, so 50-50. But we also hit the money line parlay, which was 3-1 odds. So if you tailed all the picks, I track all these in an app that I use for sports betting. You would have won 3 units. So it was a good weekend. Plan to give out picks tomorrow, Friday, September 5th. I like some of the lines this weekend. We got a lot better feel for the lines, I think, after watching 1 week of college football. So the big game this week, and I want to spend the most time on it, it's Michigan against Oklahoma. As you can see, we got 15 Michigan going to Oklahoma, number 18 in the country. This is our biggest game of the week. It's the 7:30 game on ABC. Kirk Herbstreit will be calling it. College game days there. Big game, okay? What I will say about this game is I'm excited for this quarterback play because Bryce Underwood looked really good in week one. He did, and I'm probably going to be the guy that is the hardest on Bryce Underwood just because I'm a Michigan State and Ohio State fan and I don't like Michigan. But Bryce looked good. I can't say one negative thing about Bryce Underwood. And Justice Haynes, he's what I thought they were going to get in the portal. He had a big game, over 100 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. That's their guy, okay? Michigan's had unbelievable running backs, especially of late. He's their Blake Corum this year, and I think that's something that when you look at Michigan, it's a big deal. It is. They need to have a good run game to be really good. Every time Michigan has been, I guess, a real high-end team, they have a really good running back. So, and then Oklahoma, John Materi threw for almost 400 yards in week one against Illinois State. They struggled running the football, though, and that's a key X factor, I would say, in this game. As you can see right here, the current line is Oklahoma minus 5.5, over under 44.5. I will get to some, leans here in a second for this game, but what I think this game boils down to is both these quarterbacks have bits of inexperience. Bryce is a freshman, but he also has played at such a high level in terms of if a kid's like that is starting as a true freshman, you're elite. Okay. There's no doubt about that. You are viewed very favorably. You've played in big games. Now, he played at Belleville High School. That's a big high school in Michigan. He played big time games. He's a state champion. John Mateer also, he's new to the big level football because he was at Washington State. No hate to Washington State, but they're not Oklahoma, SEC, primetime against another top 15 team in Michigan. And so the defenses are a huge thing here. Both of these teams, I say, at least their coaches are defensive oriented. Oklahoma, and I would say in my lifetime, was known for offense. Since Will Venables came there, Brent Venables, they've kind of, I would say, flipping. They've flipped their identity to more of a defensive team. So Michigan is going to be without one of their better interior guys for the first half in Jay-Sean Barham. Side note, 100% targeting. I'm not saying that because I'm an Ohio State, Michigan State fan. It was targeting. It was the definition of targeting, and Michigan fans wanted it revoked. There's my little gripe about Michigan fans today. But what I think it boils down to, really good defenses, how they can make these quarterbacks confused. And I give the nod to Oklahoma with the skill positions. I think Deion Burks and Keontez Lewis. Lewis had 9 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. I give the skill position nod to Oklahoma. Michigan, I still think, is trying to find a stud receiver. Their best receiver last week was their tight end. They always have good tight ends. They've Jake Butt, you go Colston Loveland, who's the guy, Cowboys guy, Schoonover. All these guys, really good tight ends that Michigan produces. But if that's your best target, I'm just not a fan of that because I think a tight end's easier to take away than a elite wide receiver is. And I just think Oklahoma has the edge there. My lean on this, I think Michigan covers. I do. 5.5 is a weird number, okay? And I can see Michigan losing by a field goal here. I can see Michigan losing 24-20, which is 4 points. I think Michigan covers. I think Oklahoma wins the game. I think they're the better team overall. I think they have the better quarterback right now, like on Saturday. In 3 years, I think they have Bryce Underwood is much better. But right now, I think they have the better quarterback, Oklahoma. Running back, I give Michigan the edge. I do. Oklahoma's kind of going to be a committee. Jade Knott was a guy out of Cal that I thought would be a big time transfer get for them. He only had one carry. They're going to have to run the football better than they did. That's a fact. If they don't run the football for more than 3 yards a carry against Michigan, good luck. It's not going to end favorably for you. So that's kind of what I see in this game. And then the over, 44.5. I said there's good defenses here, but I mean, 44.5, you need 45 points. 28-21, 24-21. All these hit the over, and I think it's an over game. So that's my kind of thought on the big game of the week for Michigan against Oklahoma. Some other sneaky games I like: Illinois-Duke at noon on ESPN. Illinois is a 3-point favorite on the road. I gave out Illinois over-under this year. This is a big one for them. Really underrated quarterback play here in Luke Altmaier and Darian Mensah, the Tulane transfer who went to Duke. That's a really fun game to watch. I think that could be one of my picks of the week tomorrow. I like Illinois in that game a lot. I think they're the better football team. And Duke is a basketball school. So that's all I got to say there. Iowa State, that's the big noon kickoff. That's where Big Noon's show is at noon. That's the first two, maybe 14 wins the game. Here's a crazy stat from week one. Iowa won their first game, and they have 53 rushes for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's impressive. I've not seen a stat line like that. Like, that's almost Army, Air Force, Navy-esque, like 50 carries, over 5 a pop, 3 touchdowns. I like this game a lot. My grandma celebrated her 99th birthday on Saturday. Unbelievable. That's 99 years old is no joke. And I'll be tuned into this one a little hit or miss. Best part about Iowa State, I don't have to watch for 3 hours. I turn it on fourth quarter. Here we go. It's 10-10. That's how Iowa State games are. So that'll be kind of funny on Saturday. And then another game, I like that I'm biasing, but Michigan State against Boston College. I will be there, 7:30, NBC, under the bright lights. Michigan State currently is a 4.5-point favorite. I like that line. I think that line's fair. Michigan State's going to get it done. I think Michigan State showed in the first half they've improved the run game. They were able to run it at will against Western Michigan, obviously a lower-tier opponent, and their defense didn't give up any points. The only points that got scored were a pick six thrown by Michigan State's backup quarterback in the fourth quarter. So offense stalled in the second half for Michigan State, but at the same time, I like this Spartan team. I think this Spartan team, very intriguing for me. Ole Miss goes to Kentucky at 3:30 on ABC. 8.5-point line. Kentucky beat Toledo in an impressive fashion on Saturday. Toledo's kind of the team that outside of the Mountain West is the Group of Five team a lot of people like. The trendy one after Saturday is another game I want to talk about. But Ole Miss, Kentucky, I think Ole Miss, Austin Simmons showed some growing pains in that first game last week against Georgia State. He had some interceptions, but they're so elite. They have such a high-powered offense. That'll be a fun game. Contrasting styles, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, run it, use clock, good defense. Ole Miss is, I want to score 80 points. So the other Group of Five team, that I just mentioned, they're kind of teams we're talking about and so forth. Sneaky game of the week, South Florida against Florida at 4:15 on the SEC Network. Currently, the line is 17.5 for Florida. Guys, I watched South Florida go in and I watched them dominate Boise State. That's the kind of the team everybody knows as being the best Group of Five team. Byram Brown, watch the quarterback for USF. He is a tank. The guy is listed at 6'3", 230. Never seen legs like this guy has. He's almost Saquon Barkley-esque quads. That guy is a tank. You should have seen some of his runs against Boise State. If you watch that game, you know exactly who I'm talking about. So this game intrigues me because They looked really good against Boise State, and Florida gets a really good test here. Florida has the hardest schedule in college football. This is a game that people would consider being one of their easier games. They get USF in week 2, and then their next 4 games are at LSU, at Miami, home against Texas, and at Texas A&M. So the Gators and DJ Lagway, oh boy, that's a fun stretch. So this week, we don't have 3 top 10 matchups. We only have 1 top 25 matchup. All that means is we're going to get some chaotic games. We have some fun group of 5, power 4 games where, we have like SMU against Baylor. We have fun games that I'm intrigued of. We have some conference games, like I mentioned, with Ole Miss, Kentucky. So it's going to be a fun weekend. Lots of intriguing football. And all I got to say is I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you enjoy the YouTube show. I hope you enjoy the instant Instagram videos of me recapping the game. And all I can say is enjoy college football. It's meant to be a fun thing. Unfortunately, you see so many sad things out there about death threats that players receive and just negative things. Enjoy football. If your team loses, okay? Like, in college football should be a fun passion. It should never turn into what sometimes it does. And, I like to sports bet on games, but I do it responsibly. I do it for fun. I do it if I lose $20. It's not going to impact my mood or impact my relationships. Have fun. If you want to throw a wager on a game, throw a wager on a game, but do it responsibly, please. And just enjoy college football. It's one of the greatest things that this country has, and I am pumped for it. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the Instagram page where the picks will be posted tomorrow. And I will see you guys next week to preview week 3 of college football. Have a great weekend and enjoy some big-time, sneaky college football games.